Welcome to my channel where I revisit Shona traditions and customs through Shona Proverbs passed on from generation to generations and Shona African tales. Today we are looking at the Shona proverb. That means you can't hide a secret forever, the truth will come out eventually. It's now getting exciting, as I will leave you to listen to a real-life scenario where this Shona proverb applies. Listen it to the end to get a clear picture. Chapter 1: Tariro's Village. In the heart of Zimbabwe lay the village of Muto. The village was small, with just a handful of families living in traditional round huts with thatched roofs. Every morning, the village woke up to the sound of roosters crowing and the chatter of women fetching water from the river. Children ran barefoot through the fields, laughing and playing games. It was a simple life, but the people of Muto were content. Tariro was a young girl who lived in this village with her grandmother, Mambuya Gogo. Her parents had moved to the city of Harare in search of work, leaving Tariro in the care of her grandmother. Gogo was a wise and kind woman who was loved by everyone in the village. She always had a story to tell, and her stories were filled with lessons from the past. Tariro was one of the brightest students at Muto Secondary School. She loved to learn, and her teachers always praised her for her hard work. She had dreams of finishing school and becoming a teacher one day. Tariro knew that education was the key to a better future, and she was determined to make her family proud. But little did Tariro know, her life was about to change in a way she never expected. Chapter 2: Tariro's Dreams. Tariro often sat under the big mapfuti tree at the edge of the village, dreaming of what her future would be like. She imagined herself wearing a bright white dress, standing in front of a classroom full of eager students. She could see herself teaching them how to read and write, just like her favorite teacher, Mrs. Chipo, had taught her. Tariro's dreams were big, and she wasn't afraid to share them with anyone who would listen. "One day, I will go to Harare and become a teacher," she would say with a smile. Her friends would laugh and say, "Don't forget us when you become famous." But not everyone in the village understood Tariro's dreams. Some of the older women would say, "Why do you need so much education? A girl's place is in the home, taking care of her family." But Tariro would just smile and nod, knowing that her dreams were too big to be contained by the walls of a hut. Mambuya Gogo was Tariro's biggest supporter. She would tell her stories of brave women who had done great things. "Never let anyone tell you that you cannot achieve your dreams," Gogo would say. "You are capable of anything, Tariro. Just remember to always be honest and true to yourself." Those words stayed with Tariro as she worked hard in school, determined to make her dreams come true. But as she would soon learn, life has a way of testing our resolve in the most unexpected ways. Chapter 3: A Sudden Change. One morning, as Tariro was getting ready for school, she felt a strange sensation in her stomach. It wasn't the first time she had felt it, but this time it was stronger. She brushed it off, thinking it was just something she had eaten the night before. But as the days went by, the feeling didn't go away. In fact, it got worse. She began to feel tired all the time, and sometimes she felt dizzy, especially in the mornings. Tariro didn't understand what was happening to her. She didn't want to worry her grandmother, so she kept it to herself. But as time passed, her body started to change in ways she couldn't ignore. Her stomach began to grow, and she started to feel scared. She remembered the stories Ambuya Gogo had told her about girls who got pregnant before they were married. The villagers would talk about them in hushed tones, and sometimes they were treated badly. Tariro didn't want that to happen to her. She couldn't be pregnant. She was just a schoolgirl with big dreams. Tariro decided she would do whatever it took to hide her growing stomach. She started wearing loose dresses and wrapped a cloth tightly around her waist to make her stomach look smaller. She avoided playing with her friends and stopped participating in sports at school. She thought if she just acted normal, no one would notice. But deep down, Tariro knew that hiding her secret would only get harder as time went on. Chapter 4: The Secret begins. Tariro's decision to keep her pregnancy a secret weighed heavily on her. Each day, she grew more anxious, worried that someone might notice the changes in her body. She spent more time alone, avoiding the playful chatter of her friends during break time. Whenever someone got too close, she would cross her arms over her stomach or pull her shawl tighter around her body. At home, Tariro made sure to do all her chores quickly and quietly, hoping that Ambuya Gogo wouldn't notice anything unusual. But it wasn't easy. Some mornings, the dizziness was so bad that she had to sit down for a while before she could start her tasks. She would splash cold water on her face and whisper to herself, "It's just for a little longer. No one has to know." Tariro knew she couldn't keep this secret forever, but she didn't know what else to do. She was too afraid to tell anyone the truth. What would her grandmother say? What would the villagers think? The fear of their disappointment and anger kept her silent. But despite all her efforts, people in the village began to talk. The women at the well would sometimes glance at her and whisper to each other. Even at school, some of her classmates started to notice that Tariro wasn't herself. She was quieter, more withdrawn. Her best friend, Muto, tried to ask her what was wrong, but Tariro always found a way to change the subject. "Tariro, you're not the same anymore," Muto said one day after school. "You don't laugh like you used to, and you don't want to play with us. Is something bothering you?" Tariro forced a smile and shook her head. "I'm fine, Muto. I'm just tired, that's all. There's nothing to worry about." But Muto wasn't convinced. She could see that something was troubling her friend, but she didn't want to push her. She decided to give Tariro some space, hoping that she would open up when she was ready. As the days turned into weeks, Tariro's secret became harder to hide. Her stomach continued to grow, and she couldn't wrap the cloth around it as tightly as before. Her clothes were starting to fit differently, and she knew it was only a matter of time before someone noticed. One evening, as Tariro lay in bed, she stared up at the thatched roof of the hut, feeling the weight of her secret pressing down on her. She thought about the Shona proverb Ambuya Gogo often mentioned, "You can't wrap up a horned animal without the horns sticking out," which means, you can't hide a secret forever, the truth will come out eventually. Tariro knew this was true, but she wasn't ready to face the truth just yet. She closed her eyes, hoping that somehow, everything would work out. Chapter 5: The Village Gossip. The village of Mutoko was small, and news traveled fast. As the days passed, more and more people began to notice that something was different about Tariro. She wasn't the lively, cheerful girl they were used to seeing. She walked slower, and her once bright eyes now seemed filled with worry. At the market, where the women sold their vegetables and exchanged stories, the whispers began. "Have you seen Tariro lately?" one woman would ask. "She looks different," another would reply. "Do you think she might be?" But no one dared to finish the sentence. Back at school, the gossip spread among the students as well. They noticed how Tariro always sat at the back of the classroom, trying to avoid attention. She no longer joined in the games during break time, and she was always the first to leave when the school day ended. One day, during a lunch break, Muto overheard a group of girls talking about Tariro. "Do you think Tariro is hiding something?" one of them asked. "She's been acting so strange lately." "I heard that she's been sick," another girl said. "But she never talks about it." "Maybe she's just trying to keep it to herself." Muto felt a pang of worry for her friend. She knew Tariro better than anyone, and she could tell that something was really wrong. But Tariro wouldn't talk to her, and Muto didn't know how to help. Meanwhile, Hambuya Gogo started to notice the small changes in Tariro as well. She saw how her granddaughter moved more carefully, and how she avoided heavy lifting. One evening, as they were preparing dinner, Gogo watched as Tariro gently rubbed her stomach, thinking no one was looking. Gogo's heart sank. She had seen this behavior before in other young girls who had found themselves in the same situation. But she didn't want to jump to conclusions. Instead, she decided to keep a close eye on Tariro, hoping that her granddaughter would come to her when she was ready. But the villagers' whispers grew louder, and soon it wasn't just the women at the market or the students at school who were talking. The village elders began to hear the rumors as well. They didn't like to interfere in the lives of the young people, but they knew that if something serious was happening, it needed to be addressed. One afternoon, as Tariro was walking home from school, she noticed that people were staring at her. Some looked at her with pity, while others seemed to be judging her. She felt her cheeks burn with shame, but she kept her head down and hurried home. When she arrived, she found Hambuya Gogo waiting for her. Gogo had a serious look on her face, one that Tariro hadn't seen before. "Tariro, sit down," she said gently. Tariro's heart raced as she sat down on the mat. She knew what was coming, but she wasn't ready to face it. Gogo took a deep breath and looked her granddaughter in the eyes. "Tariro, my dear, you know I love you very much. I only want what's best for you. But I need to know the truth. Is there something you need to tell me?" Tariro's eyes filled with tears, but she couldn't bring herself to speak. She wanted to tell her grandmother everything, but the words wouldn't come. Gogo reached out and took Tariro's hand. "Whatever it is, we will face it together. But you must be honest with me, Tariro. The truth cannot be hidden forever." Tariro nodded, but she still couldn't find the courage to speak. She knew she couldn't hide her secret much longer, but she wasn't ready to face the consequences. Chapter 6: Hiding the Truth. As the days went by, Tariro found it increasingly difficult to maintain her secret. Every time she stepped out of the house, she felt the weight of the villagers' stares. Even in school, she could feel the curious glances of her classmates, and it made her heart pound with fear. She knew she was running out of time, but she didn't know how to stop the inevitable. Each morning, Tariro would wake up early and carefully select the loosest dress she could find. She would wrap the cloth around her waist as tightly as possible, hoping it would hide her growing belly. But no matter how hard she tried, the changes in her body were becoming more obvious. She moved more slowly, then sometimes she had to pause to catch her breath after even the simplest tasks. At school, Tariro's teachers began to notice her strange behavior. Mrs. Chipo, her favorite teacher, was the first to express concern. "Tariro, you seem very tired lately," she said one day after class. "Are you feeling all right?" Tariro forced a smile and nodded. "I'm fine, Mrs. Chipo. I've just been busy with chores at home." But Mrs. Chipo wasn't convinced. She could see the worry in Tariro's eyes, and she knew that something was troubling her. "If there's anything you need to talk about, you can always come to me," she said gently. Tariro nodded again, but she didn't say anything more. She was too afraid that if she started talking, she wouldn't be able to stop, and then everyone would know her secret. As the weeks passed, Tariro became more and more isolated. She stopped sitting with her friends during lunch, and she avoided the playground during breaks. Instead, she would find a quiet corner of the schoolyard and sit by herself, lost in her thoughts. Ruto noticed her friend's behavior and grew more concerned. She knew something was wrong, but Tariro refused to talk to her. One day, after school, Ruto decided to follow Tariro home. She stayed a few steps behind, watching as Tariro walked slowly along the path, her head down and her shoulders slumped. When they reached a secluded spot on the road, Ruto called out to her. "Tariro, wait." Tariro stopped and turned around, surprised to see Ruto there. "What are you doing here?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "I wanted to talk to you," Ruto said, walking up to her friend. "You've been acting so strange lately, Tariro. I'm really worried about you. What's going on?" Tariro looked down at the ground, unable to meet Ruto's eyes. She wanted to tell her friend the truth, but the words were caught in her throat. Finally, she whispered, "Ruto, I'm scared." Ruto stepped closer and put her hand on Tariro's shoulder. "What are you scared of? You can tell me, Tariro. I'm your friend." Tariro looked up, tears welling up in her eyes. I can't," she said, her voice breaking. "I just can't." Ruto didn't press her any further. Instead, she wrapped her arms around Tariro and held her tightly. "It's okay," she whispered. "You don't have to say anything. Just know that I'm here for you." Tariro felt a wave of relief wash over her as she hugged Ruto back. For the first time in weeks, she didn't feel completely alone. But even though she had her friends' support, she knew that her secret wouldn't stay hidden forever. Chapter 7: The First Discovery. The days grew warmer as the season shifted toward the dry months, and Tariro's secret was becoming harder to keep. Her belly had grown noticeably, and the cloth she wrapped around herself was no longer enough to hide the truth. She avoided everyone, especially Ruto, who had been growing more persistent in her concern. One afternoon, after school, Ruto couldn't take it anymore. She decided to follow Tariro home again, but this time she had a plan. She wanted to find a quiet place where they could talk without interruptions, where Tariro might feel safe enough to finally open up. As they walked along the familiar path, Ruto called out, "Tariro, wait up." But Tariro quickened her pace, trying to get home as fast as she could. Tariro, please. Ruto's voice was filled with worry. I just want to talk. I'm your friend, remember? Whatever it is, you can tell me. Tariro stopped abruptly and turned to face Ruto. Why can't you just leave me alone? She snapped, her voice trembling with fear and frustration. Ruto was taken aback by the harshness in Tariro's voice, but she didn't back down. Because I care about you, Tariro. I know something is wrong and I want to help. Please let me in. Tariro looked away, her heart pounding. She didn't want to lose her friend, but she was terrified of what Ruto might think if she knew the truth. Tears welled up in her eyes as she whispered, Ruto, you don't understand. Then help me understand, Ruto pleaded. I'm here for you, no matter what. Tariro's resolve crumbled, and the tears she had been holding back for so long began to fall. She couldn't keep the secret any longer. She slowly lifted her dress, revealing her swollen belly. Ruto gasped and covered her mouth in shock. She stared at Tariro, her eyes wide with disbelief. Tariro, you're... Tariro nodded, tears streaming down her face. I'm pregnant, Ruto. I didn't mean for this to happen. I didn't know what to do. Ruto stood there, stunned. She had never imagined that her friend was going through something so serious, so frightening. But how, when, she stammered, struggling to find the right words. It happened a few months ago, Tariro said, her voice barely above a whisper. I was scared and I didn't know how to tell anyone. I thought I could hide it, but now. Ruto took a deep breath and stepped closer, wrapping her arms around Tariro. It's okay, Tariro. It's going to be okay. I'm here for you, and we'll figure this out together. Tariro sobbed into Ruto's shoulder, finally letting out all the fear and anxiety she had been carrying. It felt like a heavy burden had been lifted from her heart, but she knew that this was only the beginning. She still had to face her family, her teachers, and the entire village. After a few moments, Ruto pulled back and looked at Tariro with determination in her eyes. We need to tell someone, Tariro. You can't go through this alone. Tariro nodded, wiping her tears away. I know, but I'm so scared, Ruto. What will everyone think? What will Ambuya Gogo say? She loves you, Tariro, Ruto said softly. She might be upset at first, but she'll understand. And your teachers, they care about you, too. They'll want to help. Tariro took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. I'll tell Gogo tonight, she said, her voice trembling. But I need you to be with me, Ruto. I don't think I can do this alone. Ruto smiled and took Tariro's hand. You're not alone, Tariro. I'll be right there with you, every step of the way. That evening, as the sun set over the village of Muto, Tariro knew that her life was about to change forever. But for the first time in a long while, she didn't feel completely hopeless. She had her friend by her side, and she was ready to face the truth. Chapter 8: Confrontation at School. The next day, as Tariro and Ruto walked to school together, Tariro's heart was heavy with fear. She had spent the entire night tossing and turning, worrying about what would happen when her secret finally came out. Though Ruto had promised to support her, Tariro couldn't shake the feeling of dread that clung to her. When they arrived at school, Tariro noticed that her classmates were already whispering and pointing at her. She could feel their eyes on her, and it made her stomach churn with anxiety. Ruto squeezed her hand reassuringly as they made their way to the classroom. The morning passed in a blur for Tariro. She struggled to focus on the lessons, her mind consumed with fear and uncertainty. But it wasn't long before the inevitable happened. During the lunch break, Mrs. Chipo called Tariro into her office. Ruto gave her a supportive nod as she watched her friend walk away, hoping that everything would be okay. When Tariro entered the small, dimly lit office, she found Mrs. Chipo sitting behind her desk, looking concerned. The teacher motioned for Tariro to sit down. Tariro's heart raced as she sat on the edge of the wooden chair, her hands trembling in her lap. "Tariro," Mrs. Chipo began gently, "I've noticed that you haven't been yourself lately. You've been distant, and it's clear that something is bothering you. I'm here to help, but I need you to be honest with me. Is there something you want to tell me?" Tariro looked down at her hands, struggling to find the words. She knew she couldn't hide the truth any longer, but she was terrified of what would happen once she spoke it out loud. Mrs. Chipo leaned forward, her voice soft and reassuring. "Tariro, whatever it is, you don't have to face it alone. We are here to support you, but you need to let us in." Tariro's eyes filled with tears as she finally looked up at her teacher. "Mrs. Chipo. I'm pregnant." Mrs. Chipo's eyes widened in surprise, but she quickly composed herself. She reached across the desk and took Tariro's hand, giving it a comforting squeeze. "Thank you for telling me, Tariro," she said gently. "I know that must have been very difficult for you." Tariro nodded, wiping away her tears. "I didn't know what to do. I was so scared. I thought I could hide it, but now you've done the right thing by telling me," Mrs. Chipo said, her voice filled with kindness. "This is a serious situation, but we are going to help you through it. You're not alone, Tariro." Tariro felt a wave of relief wash over her, but it was quickly followed by a new sense of dread. "What will happen now?" she asked, her voice trembling. Mrs. Chipo sighed and sat back in her chair. "We'll need to inform the headmaster and your family," she explained. "It's important that everyone knows so we can support you properly. But don't worry, we'll do this together." The thought of facing the headmaster and her grandmother filled Tariro with fear, but she knew there was no turning back now. The truth was out, and she would have to face the consequences. After speaking with Mrs. Chipo, Tariro returned to the classroom, her mind swirling with emotions. She could feel the stares of her classmates as she sat down, but she tried to ignore them. Ruto gave her a sympathetic look, and Tariro managed a weak smile in return. Later that afternoon, Mrs. Chipo escorted Tariro to the headmaster's office. The headmaster, Mr. Chinyoma, was a stern man with a deep voice and a serious demeanor. When they entered his office, Tariro felt a lump form in her throat. Mr. Chinyoma looked at Tariro with a frown, but there was a hint of concern in his eyes. "Tariro," he began, his voice measured, "Mrs. Chipo has informed me of your situation. This is a very serious matter, but I want you to know that we are here to help you." Tariro nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. She could barely bring herself to meet the headmaster's gaze. "We will need to inform your family," Mr. Chinyoma continued. But we will do everything we can to support you during this time. Education is important, and we want to make sure you have the opportunity to continue with your studies. Tariro felt a small sense of relief at his words, but the thought of telling her grandmother still filled her with dread. She had let her family down, and she didn't know how they would react. As the meeting ended, Mrs. Chipo placed a comforting hand on Tariro's shoulder. "You've taken the first step, Tariro," she said. "It's not going to be easy, but you're strong. We'll get through this together." Tariro nodded, grateful for the support, but deep down, she knew that the hardest part was still to come. Chapter 9, Telling Gogo. That evening, after the sun had dipped below the horizon and the village was cloaked in the soft light of twilight, Tariro sat on the wooden stool outside her grandmother's hut, waiting for the right moment. The cool breeze rustled through the leaves of the nearby mango tree, and the distant sounds of crickets filled the air. Ambuya Gogo was inside, preparing dinner. The smell of simmering sodza and vegetables wafted through the open door, but Tariro had no appetite. Her stomach was tied in knots, and her hands trembled as she fidgeted with the hem of her dress. Ruto had stayed with her after school, offering comfort and words of encouragement. But now that the moment had come, Tariro felt more afraid than ever. She knew her grandmother loved her, but she also knew that the news she was about to share would bring disappointment and worry. Finally, Gogo stepped outside, wiping her hands on her apron. She smiled warmly at Tariro, but the smile faded when she saw the troubled look on her granddaughter's face. "Tariro, my child, what's wrong?" Gogo asked, her voice filled with concern. She sat down next to Tariro on the stool, her wrinkled hands resting gently on her lap. Tariro took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. She had practiced what she would say in her head over and over again, but now that the time had come, the words seemed to escape her. "Gogo, I have something to tell you," Tariro began, her voice trembling. She stared down at her hands, unable to meet her grandmother's eyes. It's something serious." Gogo's brow furrowed with worry. She reached out and took Tariro's hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. "Tariro, you know you can tell me anything. Whatever it is, we will face it together." Tariro felt tears welling up in her eyes. She took another deep breath and finally found the courage to say the words she had been dreading. "Gogo, I'm pregnant." The world seemed to stop for a moment as Gogo absorbed the news. Her hand tightened around Tariro's, and her face, usually so calm and composed, showed a mix of shock and sorrow. "Tariro," Gogo whispered, her voice barely audible. She let go of Tariro's hand and placed her hands over her heart, as if trying to steady the emotions that threatened to overwhelm her. Tariro couldn't hold back the tears any longer. They streamed down her cheeks as she choked out the words she had kept inside for so long. "I'm so sorry, Gogo. I didn't mean for this to happen. I didn't know what to do. I was scared." Gogo reached out and pulled Tariro into a tight embrace. For a moment, they both cried, holding on to each other as the weight of the situation settled in. After a few minutes, Gogo pulled back and wiped the tears from Tariro's cheeks. Her eyes were filled with sadness, but also with love. "Tariro, my child, why didn't you tell me sooner? You've been carrying this burden all by yourself." "I was afraid, Gogo," Tariro admitted. I didn't want to disappoint you. I thought I could hide it, but now. Gogo sighed deeply and took Tariro's hand again. Tariro, I am disappointed, yes. But more than that, I am worried for you. This is not an easy path you've chosen, but it's not too late to do the right thing. What should I do, Gogo? Tariro asked, her voice filled with fear and uncertainty. First, we must speak to the boy's family, Gogo said firmly. They need to know what has happened, and we need to decide how to move forward. This is not just about you, Tariro. A child is coming, and we must think of what is best for everyone. Tariro nodded, though the thought of confronting the boy's family filled her with dread. But she knew Gogo was right. The time for secrets was over. Gogo sighed again, a deep, weary sigh that seemed to carry the weight of the world. We will get through this, Tariro. It won't be easy, but you have my love and my support. We will face whatever comes together. Tariro felt a flicker of hope in her heart. She still didn't know what the future would hold, but with Gogo by her side, she knew she wouldn't have to face it alone. Chapter 10: The Village Elders. The next morning, the village of Mutoko was abuzz with whispers and rumors. Word had spread quickly after Tariro's meeting with Mrs. Chipo and the headmaster, and now the elders of the village were preparing to meet. It was not every day that such matters were brought before them, and they understood the gravity of the situation. Tariro and Gogo walked together to the village square where the elders held their meetings. The square was a simple open space shaded by a large baobab tree that had stood there for generations. Around it, the villagers had gathered, their faces filled with curiosity and concern. As they approached the square, Gogo squeezed Tariro's hand, offering her a silent gesture of reassurance. Tariro's heart pounded in her chest. She felt like all eyes were on her, and the weight of their judgment was almost unbearable. The village elders were seated in a semicircle under the baobab tree, their faces stern but calm. They were respected men and women, chosen for their wisdom and fairness. The eldest among them, Baba Naika, motioned for Tariro and Gogo to step forward. Tariro, daughter of Mutoko, Baba Naika began, his voice deep and commanding, "You have been brought before us because of the serious matter that has come to light. We are here to listen and to guide, but we must first hear the truth from you. Is it true that you are with child?" Tariro swallowed hard, her throat dry with fear. She nodded, her voice barely a whisper as she replied, "Yes, it's true." A murmur rippled through the gathered villagers, but the elders remained silent, waiting for Baba Naika to continue. "Do you understand the responsibilities that come with this?" Baba Naika asked, his gaze steady and piercing. "A child is a blessing, but it is also a great responsibility. Have you thought about what this means for your future?" Tariro nodded again, tears staining her eyes. "I know it's a big responsibility," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm scared, but I want to do the right thing." Gogo stepped forward, her voice strong and clear. "Tariro is my granddaughter, and I will stand by her through this. We are prepared to face the consequences of her actions, but we also ask for the village's support. This child will be a part of our community, and we must come together to ensure a good future for all." The elders exchanged glances, their expressions thoughtful. Finally, Baba Naika spoke again. "We must also speak with the boy's family. This is not just about Tariro, it involves both families. Together, we will decide the best way forward. Tariro's heart sank at the thought of confronting the boy's family. She had been avoiding that moment, hoping it could somehow be delayed. But now, she knew there was no escaping it. Baba Naika turned to the gathered villagers. This is a difficult situation, but it is not the first time something like this has happened in our village. We must remember the words of our ancestors, you cannot hide the truth forever, it will come out eventually. The villagers nodded in agreement, some murmuring the proverb under their breath. It was a lesson that had been passed down through generations, the reminder that honesty and integrity were the foundations of their community. We will meet with the boy's family tomorrow, Baba Naika continued. Until then, we ask that everyone shows compassion and understanding. This is a time for support, not judgment. As the meeting ended, Gogo took Tariro's hand, and they began the walk back home. The weight of the day's events hung heavy on Tariro's shoulders, but she felt a small sense of relief. The truth was out, and now, with the village's guidance, she could begin to face what lay ahead. Conclusion summary. Tariro's story is a powerful tale rooted in the Shona proverb, meaning, you can't hide a secret forever, the truth will come out eventually. Tariro, a young girl from the village of Muto, finds herself in a difficult situation when she becomes pregnant while still in school. Out of fear and uncertainty, she tries to conceal her pregnancy, but as time passes, her secret becomes harder to hide. Throughout the story, Tariro grapples with the fear of disappointing her family, the shame of her situation, and the anxiety of facing her peers and teachers. Her close friend Ruto offers support and eventually helps Tariro find the courage to confess the truth to her grandmother, Gogo, and to her teachers. The tale highlights the importance of community, family support, and the inevitable nature of truth. When Tariro finally confesses her secret to Gogo, she is met with a mixture of disappointment and love. Together, they face the village elders, who remind the community that while Tariro's situation is difficult, it is not unprecedented. The elders emphasize the importance of coming together to support one another rather than passing judgment. As the village prepares to meet with the boy's family, Tariro begins to accept the responsibility of her actions, understanding that honesty and integrity are crucial in facing the challenges ahead. Though her journey is filled with uncertainty, she is no longer alone. With the support of her grandmother, her friend Ruto, and the entire village, Tariro finds the strength to face her future and the hope of a new beginning. In the end, the story reinforces the message that secrets cannot remain hidden forever, and that facing the truth, no matter how difficult, is the first step toward healing and growth. The end.